Welcome back to Sideline Judgment. My name is Sergio.
My name is Tyler.
And before we go any further, Tyler, I think it's important that our listeners know that from now on, Sideline Judgment is officially a bi-coastal podcast. Can we get a round of applause for this? Little round of applause, Tyler.
My round of applause will be 3 hours behind yours, but
it's the ultimate. It's the natural echo, the natural delay that we're putting on the pod.
Now we can just excuse the time difference.
Exactly. Now we can. That's a new excuse, ladies and gentlemen, for late editing on my part. I can't wait. No, Tyler's out in LA. Congrats, my guy.
Yes, I am living in North Hollywood.
Look at
living
you.
it up with no job
for now.
Yeah,
for now,
into existence. But yeah, no, it's been fun. It was a relatively painless move. I mean, when we were moving out of Florida, our apartment in Florida, me and my roommate, our air conditioner broke while we were moving out in the May in Florida.
You know what that was? That was Florida smacking you in the face, saying, "You think you're better than me, huh? You want to leave? You want to go away to sunny California? You can't take this humidity anymore, huh, Tyler? Who are you? I thought we were friends." That's what Florida said to you.
I think it was just trying to give me the full experience right before I left. It was just like, on your way out, I'm gonna hit you with all of that because I'm out here in LA, and I don't mean to be reductive or stand from a holier than thou perspective, but they put a heat wave out here for 90-degree temperatures. They put a heat wave advisory.
Oh, that's hey, be careful, it's 90 degrees.
Yeah, for a high of 96, and I feel in this dry ass climate,
I was gonna say, because it's not even humid out there.
Well, Sergio, it's not the heat that kills you; it's the humidity.
Thank you. That is a true Floridian. There's still a little Floridian in you, Tyler. I love to see that.
I mean, me and my roommate have already there was a heat wave warning. We walked outside. He walked for a mile. Came back. It's I didn't even sweat.
It's fine, dude. You're good.
I hate to be reductive, but I feel much better than all these people about it. I mean, I do miss the sound of rain.
The sound of rain. Yes, an East Coast tradition like no other. But Tyler, that's not the tradition that we're going to talk about today. See what I did there? Beautiful transitions.
Amazing.
We're going to talk about a new tradition that the College Football Playoff Committee will be implementing relatively soon. Tyler, this is a big deal. The College Football Playoff Committee has recommended that they expand from a 4-team playoff to a 12-team playoff. Not 6, not 8, but 12, tripling the size of the teams in the College Football Playoff. Now, Tyler, before we go into it, I do want to go ahead and read and give some specifics released from the official College Football Playoff website. All right. It says that a subgroup of College Football Playoff Management Committee today, this was on June 10th. We are currently recording on June 17th, presented a proposal to change the current 4-team format to a 12-team event. They go on to say a bunch of different things. The 4 members of the working group were the Big 12 commissioner, the SEC commissioner, the Mountain West commissioner, and the Notre Dame athletic director. We will talk about Notre Dame in a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Today, actually, June 17th, and tomorrow, June 18th, they are presenting this to what is being called the Management Committee, right? The Management Committee consists of 11 members. That is the one university president from each conference. So, for example, in the Big Ten, it is Eric Barron, who is the president of Penn State. And for the conference we call home, the SEC, it is Mark Keenum, who is the Mississippi State president, and the president of Notre Dame. That's what makes up the 11 members that decide on this. What they are proposing, and if we have learned anything from college football press releases, is that they don't tell us in things unless they're pretty certain that will happen.
They wouldn't, they wouldn't be we're going to try to do this and then it fall flat on its face.
Of course, right. That's not something that they do. So we know that this is what's going to happen. These more than likely, committees this is are just kind of formalities at this point.
Yeah.
So what they're saying is that we will go from 4 teams to 12 teams. The first 4 seeds 1 through 4, will consist of the top 4 conference champions according to the playoff committee's ranking systems. They will get a bye. Now, there is a segment that is involved here where the top 6 conference champions will be automatically eligible for the postseason tournament, and then it will be 6 at-large teams. So we've gone from 4 at-large teams that there is no on paper.
Whatever they feel like.
Exactly. There's no on paper qualifications for. We have gone to 6 of those spots, and then the other 6 spots are reserved for the top 6 conference champions. I want to emphasize that it's 6. Now, the top 4 of those conference champions.
Insufferable now.
The top 4 of those conference champions are going to receive a bye. And then we're going to get the first round of games will take place on campus sometime during the 2-week period after the conference championship games. And then, as of now, the quarterfinals will be played on January 1st or 2nd, based on an adjacent day. And then the semifinals and the championship games are going to be determined later on after that. But they do emphasize that the semifinals likely will not be played as a doubleheader, meaning like one neutral site and then the 2 games just go back to back, or how we see it now where we get, the Rose Bowl at 5 and then the Sugar Bowl at 8 or 9 o'clock are the 2 like doubleheaders in that sense. They want to make them events. So that's just kind of the basicness of it. Tyler, I want to know, what was your immediate reaction to this announcement?
Immediate reaction was shock, just because it's just like, it's a thing, like it's happening. It's not because we have talked, and I know I always said like it'll be expanded because why? Because there's money to be made, and you know that's really what matters. Like, but it was still shocking to hear that it was happening. I was shocked that they forego the 8-team playoff, because that was what everybody kind of assumed that was going to happen.
Right. And
I will say, upon like thinking about it, the one thing that I do really like about my immediate reaction to liking the 12th team, my immediate reaction is that like I do like a bye week. I've actually come to like the idea of a bye week because it does mean that the regular season matters, and that the conference championship matters.
Right.
in the sense that you will get a week off. You will get to play one less game if you are better. Because that was something that wasn't really mattering, Right. And it was a worry about going to 8, because then you're always just gonna, like, what it does. Every time you expand the playoff, it's like the regular season means a little less and less, which I understand. But adding a bye does, as we see in the NFL and other professional sports all the time, adding a bye does give you a little bit of like a buffer or an incentive. And I do like they are rewarding conference champions. I will say I've thought about it, and I mean, one of my reactions was it seems kind of weird that the top 4 seeds don't get to play a home game. Like,
yeah, that was something that took me aback as well, that the top 4 seeds don't have a home game.
I feel like as a fan, you should want your team to have the number 5 seed, because you get to go play a home playoff game, but you still get to play like the 12 seed, and then you get to like yeah, for the team you want like the 1, obviously, because you obviously want the 1 seed. But like, I mean, as a fan, I'd be like, selfishly, if we had the 5 seed, it would probably be like the best situation. Like,
yeah, like it would be fun for us as Gator fans. Like, they did a whole, like, someone on Twitter blew out like what it would have been this past season. Iowa State would have come to Gainesville. Like, dude, not only, first of all, Tyler, settle down. I know, like, don't get too excited over there, all right, my guy? And please, slow it down. No, but like those are exciting things to look after. I think my immediate reaction was, when I got the alert, I thought, I don't like that, because I was very much in favor of 8 teams, Power 5 conference champions get in, top ranked group of 5 champion, and then 2 at large. And then 2 at larges, because for me that still gave you your second SEC team, or maybe your second Big Ten team or something,
or Notre Dame,
or Notre Dame. We'll get to the Notre Dame section of this in a bit. God, this freaking Catholics. Anyway, I say as a Catholic, as a practicing Catholic, I say, right, a product of Catholic school, if you will. No, but that's what I was proposing. And then when I looked into it and I realized, okay, while this brings in more teams than I would have originally intended, I like this solution better. More specifically, I like the fact that the top 6 conference champions are guaranteed to be in. Tyler,
I like
that not only gives you your SEC, your Big 10 conference champions, ACC conference champion, and Big 12 conference champion, you get the option of 2 other ones, right? We can kind of say right now that those are the top 4 conferences in college football: SEC, Big 10, Big 12, and ACC, right?
Hey, buddy, you put some respect in the Pac-12. I have the Pac-12 network now.
Congratulations. You and 17 other people.
I don't have a single other sports network, but I get the Pac-12 network. So you watch your mouth.
But my point is that it allows for more accessibility for the group of 5 teams. And we have been advocating, or I don't know if I'm going to speak for myself and say I have been advocating for more inclusivity in college football. I wanted the undefeated.
No, it's cool.
Well,
it's
I don't
true.
want to speak for you. I don't want to speak for you when I can't.
I mean, I always flip back and forth between it because I'm like, yeah, they're getting screwed and they should not be screwed. But then at some certain times, I'm just like, yeah, but you can't tell me these conferences play a better schedule than. It doesn't matter. I love in this setup. I think this will be great for the group of 5, because
I
even
think so
with
too,
8,
and I think
they could find a way to screw a team out of it, screw a group of 5 team that deserved it out of an 8-team spot, depending on the year. It's going to be really freaking hard if there's a group of 5 team that deserves it to be. Well, it's impossible because it's top 6 conference champions, and so it's the best of it's the best conference champion of the group of 5.
So you're guaranteed to get one of the group of 5 conference champions in.
Yeah.
But then in a year like last year, and I understand COVID, schedules, all that stuff, but in a year like last year, you would have gotten both Cincinnati and Coastal Carolina into this playoff. That's a big deal, that that's you huge. Can go ahead. So at a minimum, you get at least one group of 5 team. You would have gotten that powerhouse 2017 UCF team, powerhouse at the group of 5 level. I don't want anyone to come and slander me, but that powerhouse UCF team. You would have gotten the fantastic Luke Fickell Cincinnati team. We saw what would have happened this past year. This past year, Georgia played Cincinnati in the Peach Bowl, and it took until the end of the game. It was a close game throughout. Imagine in the scenario, Georgia would have to travel up to Cincinnati and play Cincinnati in Cincinnati. That definitely can swing a game. That'd be incredible. Dope. You get these matchups that you wouldn't have normally gotten. Now, I understand that 12 teams is a lot more, and I just really real quick want to push back. I've been doing a lot of reading and a lot of listening about this topic over the past week in preparation for this special episode that we're putting out. And I am very tired of the narrative of participation trophies, because
Me too.
Participation trophies means we're going to hang a banner for playing the season, right? Vanderbilt's going to hang a banner because they didn't finish in last. No, that is a participation trophy. Being one of the 12 teams in the country that is eligible to participate in the playoff is by far not a participation trophy.
I agree.
We hang banners at UF specifically. We hang banners for teams that make it to the Final Four appearances, right? And there's schools that hang banners for Elite 8 appearances. And while I may not agree with that specifically, I understand that. It's not a participation. You've made it to an elite specific
it is an accomplishment
group of
to make
teams.
Those things.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It is an accomplishment to make those things. You're 100% correct. And for people to say that is quote unquote participation trophy culture, I completely disagree with. I understand the participation trophy culture, and there's the dilemma and all that stuff or whatever. I don't want to get too into that. But in the terms of the college football playoff, I'm sorry. I disagree completely.
I agree.
It is worth a team like Indiana, who would have made it as the 11th seed last year. That's huge for Indiana to be able to put a banner up, or to just be able to tell recruits hey, we literally competed for
a playoff team.
We're a playoff team. We are a playoff team. We are one of the 12 best teams, one of the 12 teams given an opportunity to win a national title in that given year. I think that's going to do wonders. I think go ahead, Dad.
I will say there's an argument, not on the same quite thing, but I can't argument that you just got me thinking about it. That one thing that is going to be unfortunate is that you're going to sacrifice with this 12-team playoffs. That sometimes there's a beauty in small teams having a great season and ending with a great bowl win that ultimately doesn't mean anything for playoff or anything like that. But they have a great bowl win, and that, like, Iowa State season last year was one of the best, probably the best Iowa State season they've had in decades. Capped off with
I think it was their best season ever, Tyler.
It was like
I think it was like not exaggerating.
Off with a New Year's Six bowl win against Oregon, which didn't, get them as far like a playoff or anything, but that is a magical season. And there's an element of that feels like we're going to transition more to a basketball structure where really only one team is happy at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of sucks because, like, it like March Madness provides a lot of those small storylines, but then most of them end in heartbreak.
Right.
And we might start getting that in like Indiana's season was incredible. Iowa State season was incredible. And in this format, it will likely end in absolute heartbreak, not in a victorious bowl win, celebrate a great season. But then again, I would sacrifice that for the chance to win it all.
I was going to say,
and
let me ask you.
The players would sacrifice that for the chance to win it all. So
yeah, and let me ask you a question: would you rather be the 12 seed that upsets the 5 seed and then gets bounced by one of the top 4 seeds that get a bye, or would you rather be the 13 seed and win your bowl game because you'll get invited? Bowl games are not going to go away. We're going to lose some.
Absolutely, rather have a playoff win.
Exactly. Like those are the kind of things where it's an opportunity. And look, here's the long-term game plan, right? I want you to, Tyler, hoodies up, third eye activated.
Oh yeah.
All of those things. I want us to think 10 years down the road. And I want us to think about programs like UCF, programs like Cincinnati, programs like Houston, programs like Coastal, like App State, Boise State, and if they can do a good job of entering the playoff, right, and making some noise, and maybe they don't win maybe they don't win a single game against a Power 5 opponent, but they take them down to the wire. And each year the teams get better and better and better. And what they do is they end up recruiting, and I don't think that this is going to change in terms of like Alabama landing every recruit that they want. They can still do that. But what if someone is deciding
it's the
between
little 3 stars?
Not only the 3 stars, but it's the 4 stars that are looking at playing time, or all of those things. Let's take, for example, right? Let's say, and let's make it close to home. A 4-star Florida recruit, a 4-star recruit from the state of Florida is deciding between the University of Florida Gators and the UCF Golden Knights. And they're looking at their position and they say, it's a little bit log jammed up in Gainesville, but I have a chance to start here immediately at UCF. It's not like they can go ahead and say, oh yeah, but Florida's the only one that has a realistic shot at a national title. Under this system, UCF can get in easily. They win their conference, and they're more than likely going to be they're more than likely going to be the top group of 5 team. Like, let's be realistic, and then from there they can just make a play, right? So I think those are kind of the bigger winners. Those types of programs that are going to be able to land that like higher tier recruit that they kind of are reaching for now, but it can get a bit more comfortable. So I don't think that it's going to all of a sudden Bama's not going to have the option of picking who they want. No, those are going to stay the same, but the opportunity for those smaller schools to go up is going to help both in recruiting and opportunities for play. And this is what we want. We just want teams to play football, right? And have the chance.
I 100% agree with that analysis, because that's what I think is the way to make the sport at least a little bit more equal. It's college football. You're never going to get it very equal.
Right.
But like, the way to push forward is not to don't care about the top recruits, because the top recruits are going to go to where the powerhouses. That's what's going to happen.
Yep.
But it's the consistent low level, they would be background players, backups at a high level. They're good enough to play backups at Florida, or they could start at UCF. In the current model, you're right. I mean, unless you really just if you value playing time over the experience that you would have, like, of playing for something that you could probably have at like Florida, then you would go to UCF. But I don't think a lot of college players generally, a lot of high school players don't want to think that, because you got to remember that most high school players getting recruited, they're either the best person on their team, or they believe that they can make it work. Like,
right.
They believe that they can beat out anybody.
And even then,
you need to have that mindset. But in this situation, we can be a little bit more practical. You can go to UCF and you can still compete, and it not be like a Rage Against the Machine kind of thing as much,
right. Right. No, I completely agree. And I think that, Tyler, what's the number one thing that recruits are looking for in a school? Like, what's your guess?
Honestly, playing time is my thing.
Playing time. And it's playing time because they want to get to the league.
Yeah.
Every college football player, whether they think it's realistic or not, has a dream of getting to the NFL. You see players coming from group of 5 teams all the time. It's not that these teams aren't talented. It's that they're either misevaluated coming out of high school or they develop into something great, right? And that's the thing. With more exposure, right? With more people caring about what's going on at that lower level of college football, because it's still Division I. It's just a lower level than the Power 5. With what's going on there, why would I go and be third string at Clemson when I can be starting at App State and I can still have a legitimate shot at a playoff and exposure coaches, and being on national television?
And coaches would also be more incentivized to stay at group of 5 teams. I mean, like, hey, Lance Leipold was hired at Kansas, right?
He was hired at Kansas.
That? Yeah.
No, you're correct.
Yes. Yeah, I think if he could look back, he probably wouldn't have done that now.
Here's an even better one, Tyler. Josh Heupel. What are you doing?
What are you doing?
And on the flip side, on the flip side, Gus Malzahn. Congratulations, Gus Malzahn.
Yeah. This has been the summer at Gus.
Yeah, he gets out of Auburn, out of that toxicness. They're paying him a boatload to do it, to get out of there. And he's living in Orlando, still coaching college football, and is at one of the top group of 5 programs in the country. On the flip side, Tyler, hot take, Luke Fickell ain't going anywhere.
No, he's not going anywhere.
Why would Luke Fickell go anywhere? If they get
this implemented in the next 2 years, I don't imagine that, save for like the Ohio State job.
Or a literal Godfather, an offer you can't refuse financially.
Yeah, but like he's an Ohio State guy. Like if the Ohio State job comes open for some reason, which I don't think it will, because Ryan Day's going to be there for a while.
Right.
Like it's going to take a lot. Luke Fickell's not going to jump at the first opportunity. I mean, I don't think Matt Campbell's going to be going anywhere anytime soon. If this is if he can do this, like
you know who looks fantastic right now? Billy Napier, for turning down all those SEC jobs. He's in Louisiana. He can turn Louisiana into literally the Sun Belt Alabama. Like that's not unrealistic.
Yeah.
I feel like those are all the great positive parts of this, where it's just giving not only college football fans, but coaches and players and everyone involved in the sport just something to look forward to. And the season's not going to end in October. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Games are going to matter so much more.
There is an element of games matter so much. There's a worry. People always talk about how like this devalues the regular season, and that can be true for a lot of teams in the sense that like losing one game isn't the end all be all as like it was before. But there is a kind of an aspect of it's kind of nice to not lose a game in September and be like, well,
it's over.
Because like, I mean, in my own personal head, I've been taking Florida out of I've been taking Florida kind of out of consideration for like playoff spots this year, because I'm like, we have to play Alabama. And so even if we beat them, I just don't know if we'll be able to go the rest of the season without losing 1 or 2 more games.
Well, even
Alabama's almost like a guaranteed loss. Again, I don't know what type of team this is, but that just comes to the whole thing where it's just like, it's amazing that game means so much. But then for the rest of the year, I'm just kind of like, well,
that's the thing where traditionally, what's the most important game on the schedule every year, regardless of everything else? Georgia. Like it's always Georgia, because it has so many implications for the SEC East, which has implications for the championship game, which has implications to the national title picture. Now, God forbid, and I literally mean God forbid, that we lose to Georgia. Like the season's not 100% over. You know what I mean? Yeah. If we lose to Georgia, this in the traditional format, in the format we have now, season's over in terms of the level that Dan Mullen has brought in the Gator standard and all of that hoopla. But now it's not. We still have a chance to compete for a national title, even though we may not compete for our conference, which is always a primary goal. Obviously, step one. You still have a chance to keep it alive. I guarantee you, Trask and Pitts and Tony and all those defensive players don't sit out the Cotton Bowl against Oklahoma if that is a game against Iowa State to see if you go on to the playoffs.
Oh, 100% not. Like, it's a
You know what
playoff
I mean?
game. That's
Of
the thing.
course.
For all these people out here who hate that people are sitting out, this is a great way to stop that from happening.
At least for the teams that are in contention for the national title.
You're likely guaranteeing that the top 12 teams that year will not have any sit-outs.
Correct.
Because even if you lost, that's your last game of the season. That was a playoff game. You weren't going to sit out a playoff game unless if you sit out a playoff game, that is an actual red flag. Like,
You don't want to win a national title.
Care. Like, if you sit out a playoff game, I actually do have questions.
You're flagged on my draft board, and not for a good reason. No, and I also want to point out that it's not just the SEC and the Big Ten and the ACC that are going to benefit from this, right? When you go back, if this system was implemented from the beginning of the playoff era, so from 2014, Tyler, 9 of the 10 conferences would have had a representative at least 1 year. I'm sorry, Conference USA, and I think that's a little bit biased because I have a feeling that Lane Kiffin FAU team would have made some noise, but I'm not going to go into that right now because we're talking about holistic theory and not individual mistakes. 9 out of 10 conferences would have had representatives in this playoff system. I had to do it, dude. I had to do it.
No. I appreciate it.
Of course. But that's what I'm saying, that it benefits everyone. Everyone can have an opportunity. We could have seen that magical App State team make some noise. Like, there's so many teams that could have had something. You know what game gets a lot more important? The 2019 Iron Bowl. Remember that game? The good Bo Nix showing. And I tell you, there's two Bo Nix. There's a good Bo Nix and a bad Bo Nix. That was peak good Bo Nix. That team could have, if that Auburn team would have been fighting for a theoretical playoff spot, because they were, I think, 14 or something. They win that game. They take down Alabama. Alabama's guaranteed. They were going to the SEC title game anyway.
No, that was 2019 was the LSU year. So
because they took them out. Exactly.
That was Saban's first 2-loss year since 2013. 2013.
13. It was 13 because there's But that's the point that it's not that the rivalry game doesn't mean anything else. What happens, Tyler, when, and for this analogy, I'm going to keep FSU in the same place they are, even though I think they're on the come up. Well, let's say God forbid, we lose to Georgia and we lose to Alabama this year, but those are our only 2 losses, and we're in the mix for that 8 to 11 section, right? Because they're 2 quality losses. You better not be
losing to Florida State.
And we go up against a 4-7 FSU team, and FSU is going to come out and say, "Oh, we're not letting Florida go to the playoff. We're not losing this recruiting battle. Absolutely not." That game has more stakes to it. Even though it's Florida State, it already has a lot of stakes. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
everything is elevated.
Stakes into it,
exactly. Everything is elevated. I don't really see much of a downside from that perspective. I do think it's going to be more competitive. You're involving more teams. And honestly, it's a lot of fun. And we won't kind of briefly touch on it.
I like it as a fan of watching games. I like it as a fan of watching. Because I'm also the guy, I love NCAA football, obviously. I love doing the matchups. Of course. I like this. But I understand there's aspects of it that are bad for the sport. But it's not so much bad for the sport as they change the sport.
Right. Correct.
And every sport goes through this. And so I understand because there's certain pageantry of the way things were that's really nice. But to be completely honest, this is an inevitable thing. It's happening. And it's just a matter of how they were going to expand and when. And I don't hate this way. I will say this will need to spark conversation to further the players getting paid thing, or getting the ability to get themselves paid, because you're basically asking the team that wins the national championship to play a professional schedule for nothing.
And that was going to be my next point.
One of the biggest arguments you've always had in college football, and I wouldn't really completely buy into this, but you can't dispute it, is that they don't play the same number of games that professional players play. So that would be always your thing. They don't deserve to get paid because professional players play way more games. You don't have that argument now. You are asking them for your own enjoyment unless you lower the regular season, and they ain't doing that. You are asking them to play a professional season for free.
I
don't like that.
A team that would win the national title, or just play in the national title, that comes from the 5 to 12 seeds that doesn't have a bye, would have to play 17 games.
Yeah. That's the current
17 game
NFL
schedule.
regular season schedule.
That's literally the current NFL regular season schedule. Exactly. So not only you're right, 100%. I think that this will spark those things. And I think that because the NCAA ain't dumb, ladies and gentlemen, the fact that they're releasing this information in the month of June in the midst of NCAA hearings about NIL in Congress, literally as we speak, about national and federal NIL rules, says a lot. That they're trying to mask that and cover it up and take the attention away, and B, that maybe they are kind of, I don't want to say they're open to a method of having players get the ability to get paid. Like, we have NIL laws on the books in Florida, Tyler, back home, July 1st, my guy. Those laws take effect July 1st. It's a matter of what happens. What does the NCAA say?
It is kind of the bracing for the future, because I think the NCAA has started to realize that they are losing that battle.
Correct.
Like, and not for anything that they've done or didn't do. They are losing it because of time.
Mm-hmm.
Like the slow march of time and people's opinions.
But that's the NCAA's fault.
Oh,
because
I agree.
They should have seen this coming.
Yeah. They should have gotten ahead of it.
And they should have put something implemented instead of forcing the federal government to say something and implement something that will force their hand.
Yeah.
They're playing with fire, and they're probably going to get burned, because it seems that college athletes being paid, or at the very least being able to make money off of their name, image, and likeness, is like the one bipartisan issue in Congress. Like, Republicans and Democrats, all of them are fine with this. So they might get pushed back a little bit too much by kind of deferring and letting the government take care of it.
The one group that gets screwed on both sides of this, both the NIL thing and of course the expansion. It's Notre Dame.
Okay, so I'm so glad that you think on the same wavelength that I do, because that was the next transition point. Let me emphasize this real quick. I want to be full disclosure. I believe it to be complete and utter bullshit. And I will bleep that out, Tyler, in the editing. You will hear the beep, and I want it to be powerful. It is bullshit that Notre Dame is able to have an equal seat at the table than the conferences. I think that is absurd. I think if you're going to do that, then you need to give one to BYU, who's also independent. You need to give one to the service academies that are also independent. And you need to give one to basically any other independent. And I thought there was another one in my head that I could think of, but I can't right now. You got to give the same opportunity there if you're catering. Well, I said service academies, so I figured that kind of went under it. But you see what I mean? That is completely and utterly unfair on every level. Not only that, but you have the Notre Dame athletic director as one of the 4 people that's coming up with playoff expansions. Now, with that being said, Notre Dame is putting themselves in a bit of a situation here. If you remember correctly, the 4 byes go to the top 4 conference champions. It is a prerequisite for you to win your conference in order to receive a bye, which, parentheses, is another reason why I think it makes the regular season games more important, because if you're going, let's say it's Alabama and Georgia in the SEC title game, and the winner can get a bye, and the loser, yes, they host the home game and they're able to make all that money, but their players have to actually play a game. I'm sure the coaching staff would rather them get a bye, win the title, get a trophy, you can hang a banner, and also
play
you
one
get a
less
bye.
game, you get the same trophy.
Exactly. And you get an extra trophy because you not only get the national title if you win it, but you get your conference. So that is a prerequisite for them to get a bye. So they are giving up a bye week, a potential bye.
They can't get a top 4 seed.
Right. They're giving that up to maintain their independence. Now, more than likely, if a Notre Dame team is eligible for the playoff, that means that they have 1 or 2 losses. And then that the way the committee is going to do this, they're probably going to be able to host a home game. So they will be able to get the revenue from the home game, but they will give up a bye. Do you, Tyler, and I want you to take your opinions of Notre Dame as well out of it, if you're in the situation, if you're in the shoes of the Notre Dame athletic director, would you give up your independence for a potential bye, or are you willing to sacrifice that because you're still going to be involved in the playoff anyway?
I mean, just it's a tough road to climb because like you're Notre Dame. If you're good, you're going to be involved in the playoff conversation.
Correct.
But it's really about assessing how close you are to winning it.
Mm-hmm.
If it were up to me, I mean, this is like the way I think. Like, I think they should consider joining a conference heavily because the deck is going to be stacked against the fact that they're independent. And I think it should because they're not. The independence is not being provided to. They benefit, like you said earlier, from something from independence that BYU and the other independents don't. While on paper, there's no real reason that they're any different. Like,
right, because 80 years ago, you had a coach that decided to make a movie and say "win one for the Gipper." Like, that's literally the reason why. Like, let's not kid ourselves here. That's the reason why.
Yeah. So I think that I don't think they should be afforded like a benefit of the doubt just because they're independent. Like, I think they should have to join a conference. They don't want to do that. That's fine. You could still win a national title in this way. It's just harder. So, and if you're the athletic director, it is your job to make make it easier for your program to succeed. That's your job. It's your whole point is to direct the athletics. Like, you're supposed to put them in a position to succeed. So I think that you should consider joining a conference. I don't know which one. You're technically kind of a part of the ACC, but I think your fans are more likely want you to be part of the Big Ten.
Right,
so
this is the dilemma that they have.
Yeah,
right.
Because all their big rivalries, all of their big rivalries, the ones that the fans care about, are in either the Big Ten or the Pac-12, but yet they play the majority of their games in the ACC.
Well, here's the thing: they screwed themselves up
for 1 year last year.
Well, here's the thing: they screwed themselves up because when they reached the agreement to join the ACC on all of their sports, with the exception of football, there's a clause in that contract, Tyler, that says if they want to join a conference in football, the ACC has the first right of refusal. I'm telling you right now, the ACC is not going to refuse. They're not going to do that. They're not going to do
Florida
that.
State and Miami Tyler, keep messing everything up, so they're not going to refuse a good Notre Dame program.
Of course. What if I also told you, Tyler, that you would actually make more money as a member of the ACC than you would as an independent? And you're eligible for a bye.
I would believe that.
It's a fact. These are numbers. Like, it's true. Notre Dame is maintaining their independence for this wholesale, holier than thou, no pun intended.
Not for a financial gain. They just want to be independent.
Right. Yeah. It's about principle and it's about integrity and all blah, 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 blah. And I understand that and I respect that to an extent. But I think at this point, they're actively hurting their competitive chances by remaining an independent when the upside is not only competitive, but, and let's face it, it's what runs everything, at least in collegiate athletics, it's the money. They can make more money joining the ACC. Now, I personally would try to strike a deal with the ACC where I'm a member of the ACC. I'll play the full thing, but then, I'm going to still play Navy. I'm going to still play Michigan, and I'm going to still play Stanford, and I'm going to still play USC. That'd be the toughest schedule in the country if but
they would do it because they care more about their tradition than they do about their chances of winning. Like,
correct. Right. Correct. But if you never win, are you building any more tradition, especially when you're advertising yourself as Notre Dame?
I agree with you because it is a factor. Things are the way they are until they just aren't. Like, Notre Dame is a powerhouse until you look up and it's been 20 years since they won anything, and kids that grow up don't think of it like that. Boise State is what it is because they were good and they kept being good, and the kids that grew up watching TV always have associated Boise State with being good. Like
you and I. That's you and I. Now, that's our generation.
And like that's a worry that I have with Florida, that it's like it's been a long time since Florida's really won anything, and if we don't, and Dan Mullen's been very helpful in making Florida still a competitive top 10 program, which is very needed. But it's a certain aspect of like, if you don't win anything after a certain period of time, are you still that powerhouse? Because well,
that's what Texas is going through right now.
Yeah,
Texas. This Sark hire, future friend of the pod, Texas Longhorn correspondent, my friend Kevin Borba,
fellow Californian.
Fellow? Oh wow, you've abandoned your Floridianness.
No, I'm a Floridian.
I will take that athlon back.
I'm literally in Florida Gators pajamas right now,
as God intended. Anyway, No, but Texas is hoping that Sark is their Mullen, where he at a minimum brings them back to top 10 relevancy. At a minimum, they want to compete for championships as we do, but you feel me?
Absolutely. I mean, like, I don't want to. It's hard to win a championship when Nick Saban's in your conference, and by extension, Lincoln Riley also.
Yeah,
but yeah,
true.
I mean, yes, that and then it works the other way too, because like, guess what? Clemson wasn't what they are right now at any point in their history, but kids are growing up. This is what Clemson is. Right. And if they don't have it, if they continue on this trend, this will just be what they are default. Like Alabama is what they are. When Nick Saban retires, in 2079, when Nick Saban retires, Alabama will still get but it's Alabama. Even though the chief architect of that success will not be there anymore, they will still get that. So that's the thing that Notre Dame's kind of dealing with, is that, like, I think Notre Dame, big brain, if you want to stay what you are, you need to do everything in your power to win a national title, because you're so close. You're missing some things, and this might be able to help you get that. So, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, yeah. I didn't mean for this to become trash Notre Dame, but then again, I also did.
Well, I mean, I definitely did, but but I did want that perspective, because I think it's important that this is the first domino, in my opinion, this is the first domino to fall in what we are going to come to know, and what I'm going to dub right now as the new college football, where we're moving forward in a way where we're putting importance on performances on the field and not necessarily name brand reputation. We're allowing for teams to compete, right? We're opening it up a bit more. I don't think 12 is the last stop. I do think that we'll expand a bit more. I don't know what the right number is, ? I don't.
Yeah, that's a tough one, because it's not basketball. Like,
correct. But at the same time, I know it's going to keep going. You want to know why, Tyler? Because there's a whole lot of money to be made. And that's what's going to happen. Now, a consequence of that is that we're going to allow for teams to compete a bit more. We're seeing this potential NIL stuff that's going to go forward. Maybe one day we pay the players. Maybe we get these programs that are going to become powerhouses later on. And that's another thing that I love about this entire situation. Like you said, Clemson wasn't relevant nationally until Dabo got there. And it took years of happening. Tyler, Clemsoning was a thing.
Yeah, it's not anymore, but it was a thing.
I want the youth of America to know that Clemsoning was a thing. What is Clemsoning? Clemsoning is blowing the game in the fourth quarter when you should have won the game. That was Clemsoning.
And it was an earned title. Like,
oh yeah, because it wasn't a one-time thing.
It happened multiple times, and then they and like, that was true until it just wasn't. Like,
right, exactly. And I feel like that's what I'm talking about, the new college football, where kids are going to go, oh yeah, Clemson, of course. And then they look in the history book and they're like, wait a minute, they weren't relevant until 2011? It's like, yeah, dude, we've been trying to tell you this stuff.
I remember telling my old roommate back in college once, it was like, yeah, Nebraska was like a powerhouse in the 90s. Like, he's like, no, they're not. And I was just like, Nebraska was like the it of college football for a good period of time.
Nebraska was Alabama.
Yeah. And
Nebraska was Alabama.
It was like, yeah, because like that was before we were born.
Literally. Like, yeah, literally.
And
it's insane.
It's all about what you know, and these things change over time. And again, this could be great for Scott Frost, Nebraska. This whole thing,
right?
Go ahead.
No, after you, because I want to move on.
You know who this is? This expansion is good for the Pac-12.
It is. It's very good for the Pac-12.
I live in LA now. If USC gets to host a playoff game in the next 2 years, my ass will be in that stadium.
Tyler, I'll sell a kidney.
Florida better come to play USC. Like,
where's the TikTok with the card? Give me that's me. That's me. I get to fly out, crash with you for a weekend. We go see Florida USC in a playoff game at the Coliseum. Get out. Name your price. Name your price, NCAA.
I'll pay anything. Name your price. I have like no money, but I'll pay it.
Okay, but speaking of majestic football games in Southern California, the last aspect of this, Tyler, is the bowls. Now, with more teams in the playoff, we're going to lose some of the lower tier bowls. I may never get to see the beautiful Fenway Bowl that I wanted last year. I don't think I'm going to see that. I think that's going to be scrapped and thrown to the
Yeah.
wayside, which is, in my opinion, fine because I think we have too many bowls at the moment, but
I would
that's
agree.
a whole different podcast episode. But I think that this changes it. Now, the way that it's currently constructed, what they propose right now, is that the quarterfinals will take place on January 1st or 2nd. Now, they don't mention if those games are going to be bowl games. They don't mention if those games are going to be on college campuses. But if I was a betting man, I would say that they were going to incorporate the New Year's Six bowl games as the quarterfinals. And I think that's an intelligent thing to do, with the exception that I personally would like for the first round to be on campus, the quarterfinals to also be on campus, make those the 2 weeks after the conference championship game. Like, and then, Tyler, we keep the exact same rotation of New Year's Six games where they continue to rotate. You continue to host semifinals because they're 4 teams. You keep the same system you already have. You just make 2 weekends of money and generating for these college campuses and these cities. Tyler, Oh my gosh, could you imagine Midtown the weekend of a playoff game? The amount of money that is made. No, like seriously, like
it'll set the gentrification of Gainesville back at least 20 years. I'm so here for it. Thank God. I'm not here for any of that. We are breaking into the husk of old Leonardo's Pizza, and we are throwing a rager.
Leo's by the slice would not have closed if we had this 10 years ago. Change my mind.
You can't.
Thank you. But that's my point, where these local economies are going to be able to get the money, and that's going to be true in the first round, of course. But why is
even more so?
But I do think, and I can't believe I'm siding with Alabama and Clemson and Ohio State and these mega powers. But I do think it's a bit unfair for them not to be able to generate revenue from being good.
If you're a fan or you're an athletic director, you want the 5 seed. Like,
of course,
because and if you're an SEC team, you're just like, well, we're not getting the 5 seed. Like, if you win your championship in the SEC, you're not getting the 5 seed. And I kind of hate that. But like, you want a 5 seed?
Yeah, I do as well. Like, I would love for the Gators to go on a. I would love for the Gators to go on a historic season. We get like the 2 seed or something. We win the SEC. Whatever, and then I can't see that team in the swamp in a playoff game just because we were too good during the season. No, that makes no sense. Sense. I think they should make it round 1 and round 2 on campuses, semifinals, and then you literally keep the exact same semifinal and final structure. Like, you don't have to change it. That's part of the benefit, where the bowls can still stay happy, all that stuff.
Or you could do on and off, where you still do round 2 in the bowls, but round 3, the semifinals, you go to college campuses. Like, home bowl game, home bowl game. Like,
I don't know if I like that much.
They wouldn't do that, but just like they would not do that because, like,
well, I mean, if in a perfect world, all the games are on campus except for the national title game.
I would agree with that, but they're not going to do that because and there's a very small part of me. I would only be okay with that if they play the national championship at the Rose Bowl every year.
I heard that on a podcast, and I've heard like 4 of the past 2 days, so I can't really say which one. And it's either the Andy Staples show, the Verbal. It's like one of 4.
Doesn't matter.
Someone said put them all on college campuses and make the Rose Bowl the national title game every year. The NC
that may be a little selfish of me because I live 10 minutes away from the Rose Bowl.
not only selfish from you, but it is like the most historic thing that we have.
It's the college football stadium. It's the college football stadium.
Yeah, exactly. The reason we have the New Year's Six being so convoluted is because the Rose Bowl said we're not moving from New Year's Day and we're not moving from a 5:30 Eastern kickoff time because we need the third quarter. We need the third quarter to have the beautiful sunset because that's what we have. And it's true, and it's fantastic.
So cool for a national title game.
Dude? Come on, it'd be beautiful. Anyway, so those are the things that are kind of in there in that new 12-team playoff.
It would help revitalize the Pac-12 because you're playing the national championship on this side of the country every year.
It would. It would make it more relevant. So that's how I feel. I do think there's one more thing. I'm sorry, there's one more thing to say. I did miss something, and I think it's important. There we go. Here we go. The working group's charge did not include deciding which bowls might be a part of the college football playoff in the future. I'm going to put a Sergio parentheses there. I have a strong feeling it's going to stay the New Year's Six games. However, the group did recommend that if traditional bowls host games, i.e. the Rose, the Sugar, the Orange, and the Cotton, those are the traditional bowls, teams would be assigned to their traditional bowls for quarterfinal games with priority going to the higher seeded team. Meaning, Tyler, that the Gators would more than likely, in this situation, always play their quarterfinal at the Sugar Bowl because that is an SEC tie game. And the Big Pac-12 and the Big Ten teams would play theirs at the Rose Bowl because that's a traditional tie-in. I'm not as much of a fan of that simply because I don't like that it's only one destination. Listen, never been to New Orleans. Hope to go there soon within a couple of years. And I'm sure it's a beautiful place and a great time to party. But as a fan, or even as a player, right, if you're making the multiple years, you want to go to different spots around the country. You know?
I got to be honest, one of my favorite things about the playoff system that we just came from, or we're currently in and we're moving away from, one of the things that I will say that I loved is the fact that the New Year's Six bowl structure did create bowl matchups that we would never have seen otherwise. Correct. Oklahoma, Georgia at the Rose Bowl was a game we would never have seen. And I'm sitting here and I'm just like, Florida will never play at a Rose Bowl if it's not a playoff game.
Correct.
It's never going to happen. And that's okay. I'm okay with that if it never happens, but it is a matter of, I like the idea that the highest seed then gets to choose what bowl they want to play at and down the list from there. So
it says, so the last part of that sentence is with priority going to the higher seeded team. But here's the thing, priority.
Okay.
Not necessarily, like, contracts are going to trump that priority thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's
because even then, like, Alabama can say,
we're still playing at the Sugar Bowl. They're not going to let us not play at the Sugar Bowl. And then if there's a second SEC team that's, number 2, this wouldn't happen.
Exactly.
But then they would get to pick whatever they want. But
exactly, because
Florida is locked into the Sugar Bowl.
Exactly. And from a financial standpoint, it makes sense. It's much easier to go from Gainesville to New Orleans than it is from Gainesville to Los Angeles. But still. All right, Tyler, I think we got it all, my guy. I think we got it all. Anything else that you want to bring up about the playoff?
I mean, this has just gotten me so excited thinking about it, because I really do like this setup now that it's been explained and talked about.
Hold on. Sorry, I forgot to mention. This one take place immediately. People are like, "Oh, when is it going to happen?" Sorry.
Oh yeah, forgot about that.
At the earliest, it would be 2023. So for sure, this season is going to be the same 4 teams. We're going to see the same ESPN Who's In graphic starting in September. Same thing next season with 2022. At the earliest, it could be 2023. But the contract for the 4-team playoff with ESPN and with whatever and the Bulls and all that contract expires in 2025. So they would have to break that lease, pay stuff to companies, pay stuff to media broadcasters, to conferences, to bowls, all that stuff, if they want to implement it a bit earlier. But wouldn't it be crazy, and wouldn't it be really smart planning if in 2023 when, I don't know, there was a new video game that had to do with college football was coming out, and then they also made the change to their 12-team playoff structure so that they could maximize all those profits? What do you think? Would that be a possibility, Tyler?
No, that makes too much sense.
No, makes too much sense. So that's that is when it will be. So I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but I realized that that was an important part. Right.
Yeah, it's not immediate, but that's pretty close. If it were to happen like that, which makes me think that it will happen like that.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Because they'll have to pay some money to break that contract, but it's going to be worth it for all the money that. Just because it's the way coaching contracts work. You never actually wait till the contract's up and then extend it or then sign a new one. You sign it with the last year or 2 left.
Yes,
this is standard operating procedure in my opinion. We're getting it. It just better be in the new video game so I don't have to mod or buy a stupid Reddit thing.
Hey, listen, I've been playing it for the past few months. I love it.
It's great. I love college football revamped, and I just can't wait for the new game. But
the one thing I haven't figured out is how to put a playoff in there. I know you can do it.
You have to do it separately.
Okay.
And it bothers me.
Because if that's the case, I won't put a 14 playoff. I'll put the 12-team playoff, and I'll just start playing it. I'll just start playing it like it is now, or like it's gonna be. Oh man. All right, Tyler. I guess that's it about the playoffs.
Yeah,
This has been a nice little special episode. Nice little playoff breakdown.
absolutely. It's good to be back.
It is.
Not quite to season 5 just yet, but we're getting there. We're setting up in our new situations. Sergio just started a job recently. He's an employed man.
Yes, I am.
Can't
I am
speak
employed.
Too much about it. I imagine.
I am employed.
But, yeah.
I can't say that I am employed though. I can't say. Can't confirm.
Yeah. But yeah, just living life. This news came around at the right time for me, just because it's been a while since anything college football really happened, and I was just like, oh, something new to talk about. Also, in the mail recently, got my athlon from one of Sergio de la Espriella.
Yes.
Much appreciated, because it is a Florida player. Which
so the thing about the athlons is that the athlons have regional covers. So if you were to buy an athlon out in LA, which I'm sure you can, it would have a USC and UCLA players on the front. And I was like, my guy just moved out to California. Like, I get it. He's all SoCal, whatever, but he's a Floridian. I'm going to send him. So I went and I was home for a week visiting family, and I was like, I got to take advantage. Not only do I want to get the athlon for myself, but let me also buy one for Tyler and send it over as a little housewarming gift. So that's what happened there. You have Florida players on the cover. You're welcome. And speaking of the athlon, Tyler, we may or may not be doing some kind of athlon-centric episode before we officially hit to season 5. So keep an eye out for that, listeners. And Tyler, I think that's it, my guy. Any last thing you want to say before we take off?
No, I mean, just enjoying the new era that we're going into. Excited for the new season of college football to start up. I'm going to need it. Football games, noon games are going to start around 9 here. It's going to be weird.
That's really strange.
I'm really ready for it, because I'm going to love to have my breakfast food. Well, then
let me ask you a question then. Are you just not going to watch game day now?
It's gonna be tough, because that's like waking up at 5 a.m.
I know.
When they do game day and when they did game day at Washington State, it was 5 o'clock local time that they started.
Oh, because they always do it local. They always do it 9 a.m. Eastern. So regardless of where they are in the country, they shift whatever time.
I guess. I'm definitely probably going to catch the last part of game day, but I probably won't watch all of it, because that's tough. If it's at Florida, I absolutely will. But I don't know, man. How do you think about that?
Well, you got a few months. You got a few months to think it over.
A few months to think about it. I'm excited though. I'm excited. Yeah.
Good.
And
good, my guy.
I could go grab now it's weird, because the sports climate here is way more relaxed. I'm not really prepared for that. Because I'm just let's go to a brunch and let's watch the Gators for brunch with a bunch of my Florida friends that also live out here. And then I'm there's probably gonna be no place that has that.
It's not really as intense. You are right. Yeah. It's more chill sports culture, right? So all right. Well, it is what it is, but hey, I'm so glad for you to experience it. I'm so glad for you to do that. And hopefully
I really on my bucket list while I'm out here in LA is I really want to go see a soccer game. I really want to go see a soccer game.
That'd be fun. LAFC would be a good place to go to. And I think, Tyler, that when I come visit you, don't know when it will be, but I will come out. Yeah. We should try to time it for either this fall or the following fall, so that we can go to an LAFC game, and then we can also watch a bunch of college football, because
I think that would be great.
Because I think that'd be fantastic. Hey, Sergio, why are you flying out to LA? I'm literally flying to LA to sit on a couch and watch college football with my best friend. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah, it's worth it in my opinion. You'll be more than welcome.
I agree.
Yeah, I think the 3 cats that live at this apartment will like you. You're not allergic to cats, are you? It.
I am not allergic to cats.
Okay, it's good to know.
But even if I was, I would bring some medicine deal
Yeah,
with
no,
it.
we got 3 that live here now. I was used to living with 1, and I was just like, yeah, like if you like are allergic to cats, just don't go anywhere near my apartment. Like,
Oh man.
I'm gonna get
All
them
right.
all. I'm gonna get them all Florida gear.
I love it. I love
All
that.
right,
I should do that with my
they're
dad's dog.
they're gonna
I should
hate
do it with
it.
my dad's dog. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
That'd be fun. All
but
right. Well, enough of the pets and the pet decorations. Tyler, thank you so much for coming on. It was nice for us to be back on where we
feels
belong.
good. This feels right. Like,
It does feel right. And like you said, it's not quite season 5 yet. We will get there. Maybe we have a couple other episodes before we officially introduce season 5. And I promise you, listeners, you will know when it is season 5. With all that being said, Tyler, this has been another episode of Sideline Judgment. My name is Sergio.
my name is Tyler.
And we are not biased, but go Gators.
Go Gators.